Hi, I'm Hunter, and welcome to Hard Things Made Easy. Today's focus is on mortgage servicing compliance. We're so grateful that you joined us today to talk about these new regulatory items. These are all items going into effect that we think that you, as a servicer, should be made aware of. In an attempt to avoid sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher during these calls, today we're going to try to make it a little bit more conversational. So joining me in this conversation, I have with me Taylor Hildenbrand. He's our servicing compliance leader and head of industry relations. Also, I've got Tracy T.Y. Yates, head of all things bridge and expert in all things mortgage servicing. Tracy, why don't you kick off our conversation today? Earlier this year, HUD's Office of Native American Programs published Dear Lender Letter 2022-01, which goes into effect on April 1st of this year. From my understanding, this has implications for servicers' relations with Section 184 borrowers who are in default. What can you tell us about these new options, Tracy?
That's right, Hunter. ONAP has basically consolidated all of its loss mint options into a total of 4 programs. Their overall goal is basically to help low-income households, for first-time homeowners, and native households as well. Also, in addition to these programs and the consolidation, they've also expanded the outreach methods to include texts, emails, etc. The lender must also inform borrowers that they can apply for the Department of Treasury's Homeowners Assistance Fund if it is available. These changes are basically just a copy and paste from FHA, so that will be easy for most servicers to follow.
So, Tracy, what are these new ONAP programs that servicers should be offering to certain borrowers in default?
Okay, I'll just flip through these 4 options. The first is the COVID-19 forbearance. This option allows borrowers who experience an adverse impact on their ability to make on-time loan payments due to the COVID-19 pandemic with a forbearance period, which allows for 1 or more periods of reduced or suspended payments. Basically, the borrower can get 6 months of deferment, an additional 6-month option period, and 2 more 3-month option periods for a total of 18 months of deferral. The second option is a mouthful, but it's called the COVID-19 Native Advance Loan Modification Option. This is similar to FHA's basic cap and extend modification, also called an ALM. This program must achieve a 25% P&I payment reduction by changing the rate and the term only. If these terms cannot be achieved, the servicer must continue down the waterfall of options.
Okay, Tracy, so there's more?
Yep, Hunter, there are 2 more. The third is the COVID-19 Recovery Loss Mitigation Advance. The COVID-19 Recovery LMA is a zero-interest subordinate lien for arrearages for borrowers who can return to making their existing loan payments after forbearance or default. So this is basically a partial claim with a better name. The COVID-19 Recovery LMA replaces the COVID-19 National Emergency Forbearance Loss Mitigation Advance established in DLL 2020-06. Last, we have the COVID-19 Recovery Native Loan Modification. This is basically a mod PC combo with a new and better name for the deferred principal portion. Unlike the basic modification we discussed earlier, this program allows for principal deferment as well as cap and modification of terms and can result in a payment decrease of something less than 25%. Taylor, what would you say is the top priority for servicers to be doing as a result of these new options?
A glossary. So first and foremost, can we celebrate OLG and the team at ONAP? These DLLs are finally in a centralized location. And delivered in a detailed format similar to FHA's other programs. So for those of you keeping track at home, we have OLG, ONAP, DLL, LOL, and so kudos to them for making these changes easier on the industry. Maybe not everyone's brains, but that's the way the industry goes. So Tracy, you touched on this earlier, but to your original question, this DLL hit refresh on the requirement for servicers to communicate with all their 184 borrowers of all available relief options, which now includes half. There's another one to add to your glossary. So let me say that again. 184 is now requiring you to advise all of your FHA 184 borrowers of these new options that Tracy just went over and of the Treasury's homeowner assistance funds, half. So you can call, email, text, fax, teleconference, use your web chat, or just send a letter. But really, as long as you're clearly advising your borrowers of possible COVID-19 loss mitigation options that we talked about, that's the goal. So at a minimum, you should be reaching out to all of your borrowers by public posting, but making specific outreach to those borrowers who are currently in default and really specifically targeting those borrowers who are either in active loss mit, being evaluated, and really in some stage of loss mitigation. There's plenty more we could discuss, as always. I'm really hoping, Hunter, that we can have some more acronyms to put into our glossary, but I think that's a good stopping point for now. What do you want to tackle next?
Okay, Taylor, so I got DLL, I have ALM, but I think I missed LOL. What does that stand for? Like loans on loans or laughs on loans or what? No, but I would like to talk about a bevy of Fannie Mae updates from the 2022 Servicing Guide that are going into effect this spring. So first, the eligibility requirements for a deed in lieu of foreclosure has changed. So for instance, if the mortgage loan delinquency status at the time of evaluation is between 90 days and 18 months delinquent, then the servicer does not need a complete borrower response package if the borrower received a forbearance plan as a result of a hardship and became delinquent prior to the evaluation for a mortgage release. So, servicers should be aware that receiving a borrower response package is not necessary before evaluating certain borrowers for a Fannie Mae mortgage release. This new caveat goes into effect May 1st, 2022, so you still have a little bit of time to implement accordingly. Another update from Fannie Mae, an updated allowable for foreclosure attorney fees.
Oh no, what's happening?
Yeah, Taylor, we're talking about an increase in allowables for the maximum foreclosure attorney fees. Also, the servicing guide was updated to increase the mortgage release document preparation cost to up to $500 for a completed mortgage release.
Okay, so it's going up, but that's a good thing. Are we going to be able to get some relief on gas prices, or when are these increased amounts allowable to be recovered?
Yeah, so servicers could have started back on February 9th with these new allowables. So if you're not already doing this as a servicer, you definitely should be now. It'll become mandatory on May 1st, though.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you're on a roll with these Fannie Mae updates, so I've got one real quick.
Yeah, by all means, go ahead.
This is really more of a technical change. So the submission process for servicers to recommend law firms to Fannie Mae has been automated now.
Sweet. Some automation. I love to hear that. It makes me feel like my life just got easier.
Hopefully it is, because previously we were using spreadsheets and emails. As a servicer, you can now refer any law firms who you're wanting to retain to do bankruptcy, foreclosure, all your default-related services. Form 200, we need to add that to our glossary, is now a web-based application. So that goes into effect on April 1st. Hopefully Fannie Mae means it, and that's not just some cruel April Fool's joke.
Okay, Taylor, I'm going to move on like I didn't just hear that attempt of a joke.
It was an effort.
Yeah, it was a good try. So let's jump into some exciting escrow analysis talk next. We think this clarification will help provide some needed clarity for servicers. Fannie Mae updated its guide to incorporate the requirements related to performing an escrow analysis when determining eligibility for a disaster payment deferral and Fannie Mae Flex modification as introduced in LL 2021-07, COVID-19 payment deferral and Fannie Mae Flex modification for COVID-19 impacted borrowers. The updated requirements as found in the guide to performing an escrow analysis require servicers to do the following. First, you must perform an escrow analysis when evaluating a borrower for a COVID-19 payment deferral. Second, inform the borrower of the full monthly contractual payment based on repayment of any escrow shortage amount over a term of 60 months before the borrower can accept the COVID-19 payment deferral offer, and spread any escrow shortage repayment amount in equal monthly payments over a period of 60 months unless the borrower decides to pay that escrow shortage amount in a lump sum upfront or over a shorter period, not less than 12 months, of course, for a COVID-19 payment deferral or flex modification for COVID-19 impacted borrowers.
Okay, Hunter, if you're calling me the reg nerd, we have to start calling Tracy the escrow nerd, because I think you got way too much enjoyment out of talking about escrow shortages just now.
No, I completely agree, Taylor, but thanks for that update, Tracy. And I should note that that escrow analysis change that Tracy just mentioned did go into effect on March 1st of this year. But now moving on from Fannie Mae updates, I also want to make note that the VA moved back its expiration date for Circular 2621-07 of last year, which covered loan repayment relief for borrowers affected by COVID-19. This was set to expire on April 1st of this year, but that's now been pushed back through July 1st of 2023. And one final word before we go, a whole bunch of updates were made to FHA Handbook 4000.1. The next round of these changes going into effect takes place on March 31st of this year, just at the end of this month. So be sure to take a look at those changes. And of course, if you've got any questions about those changes themselves or how they impact your organization, then we'd love to sit down and help you out with those. But I think this concludes today's call. Once again, we really thank everybody for joining us, where we are always trying to make hard things a little bit easier. If you'd like to partner with us, you can head over to bridgerm.com to learn more, or contact Heather at bridgerm.com. Thanks.